Okay, continuing where we left off. The last time we were in Blender, we had created our lure at a volume of 28 cubic centimeters. We had determined where our front line tie is going to be, and if you don't recall, what we did there was we found the furthest aft point on our lure, and we used this cube to cut our lure in half, and then using Boolean modifiers we used this cube to split our lure into a top and a bottom, and we checked this volume. We were trying to get 14 cubic centimeters on the top and 14 cubic centimeters on the bottom. We got it close enough. It was 14.04, so 0.04 of a centimeter. That's fine. So a line that splits that volume in half. The line goes from the furthest aft point to the furthest forward point. We want our forward line tie right here. I'm going to close this modifier. I'm going to take this back to inches. And what we're going to be doing is creating our aft hook hanger, our mid hook hanger, our forward line tie, cutting those holes out, and cutting the ballasts, the holes out for the ballast. In the previous video we had determined our tolerances, what size we want these holes to be. I'm going to actually delete this and create a new cylinder. Scale it down. Okay. And the overall length I like to use 1.5 inches. So Z, we're going to put this at 1.5 inches. And then for my block that I had printed, what I liked best when I'm printing at 0.1 layer height was 0.77 on the holes for the line tie. So we need a radius. It was 0.077. The radius of that is 0.0385. Oh, wasting my time. We don't need a radius there. We're overall diameter is going to be, you know what, that's a mistake. We're not going to use a cylinder. Let's shift A. Let's use a cube. Again, Z is going to be 1.5 inches. 0.077. 0.077. Okay. We're using a cube, and we're using a cube for a reason. You can use a cylinder, but I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees and move it here. The reason I like to use a cube is because if you've printed enough with 3D printers, you know that they can struggle to print these flat surfaces. This is small enough that it would probably be okay. It would run filament across here, back and forth. Same with a circle. If we had a cylinder here, it could struggle to print the top. What it prints the easiest is 45-degree angle. So we're going to rotate this 45 degrees. Printer's going to have a much easier time printing this. And when we put the line tie in there, which is roughly a circular shape, we'll have a little bit of gap along each corner here, which allows for epoxy to fill up. That's why I prefer to use cubes for my line ties. You can use a cylinder if that's what you prefer. It does work. I just have much more success with printing these repeatedly. So I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate, bring this forward, I'm going to put it right here. It's going to be the line tie where the circle is. We want it to be right on that. We're going to rotate this and get it into place later, but for now, like that is fine. I'm going to hit Shift D again, bring it down here. It's going to be for the middle. Rotate 90 degrees. Now, we had moved the origin of this volume. We moved the origin to the volume of this shape. If yours origin is here or here. Okay, I had a phone call, so I had to step away for a second. We were setting the origin, making sure that you have the origin set to the volume. If this little orange point is your origin, if it's on the Z-axis or sitting inside the 3D cursor here, we need to move it over here. We will do that by making sure that the lure is selected, right-clicking, go to Set Origin, and Origin to Center of Mass. And if it was here, we'll move it to here. So I like to have, this is not a requirement, but I like to have my lure hanger here, because this is going to be very, very close to the balance point, forward and aft for the lure. So I like to have my hook hanger for the middle, right around where that is. So I want it to be there, but as you'll see when I click on my middle hook hanger, it goes away. So what I can do, that origin point is actually what these dimensions that you see here are. And you could select that, copy it, click here, paste it, and go back and forth like that. But there's an easier way to do it. If we first select the object that we want to move, hold down Shift, and then secondly click the object where we want to move it. You're going to go here to the object tab, and we're only really wanting the X axis. We're not too concerned with the Z. So you right click here, and we are going to go to copy single to selected, and it's going to copy the one that I have picked, which I'm in the X. If you wanted to move all of the location parameters to that origin point, you could hit all to selected, but if you just want to use the one, like I have X, you'd hit single. So I'll show you. Okay, moved it along the axis in line with that. Now if we had done it the other way, and you can, it's not the end of the world. If I hit copy all, it's going to also apply the Z. So it's moved it in the X direction and in the Z direction. Oops. I have my hook hanger selected. I'm going to G to grab it, and then Z to constrain it to the Z axis. We'll bring it just below the top of that. The reason for that, when we're 3D printing this, the walls that are up here, I want to tie into the walls that hold the hook hanger. I always like to have 2 points for my hook hangers. One point is going to be tied in the lure here, and then I want it tied in somewhere else, which we'll cover how to do that on this one. And this one is probably going to be moved too. But on the middle hook hanger, just go to the top. So it's tied in at the bottom, it'll be tied in on the top. And we'll see that in the slicer later. Now I've already made this lure before, and I have determined how much weight it needs for a slow sink, or a little bit faster than just a slightly quicker than slow sink. And that's how I like my lures to be. And what we're going to have is, using this number 3 split shot that I showed you earlier, we're going to have 3 of them forward of that midline hook hanger, and then we are going to have one right about here, and then we're also going to have half of a split shot. It'll be right here, and we'll get into how to do that part. But let's start with the front. So I like to put it, I'm snapping still to vertex, so don't highlight your magnet, but drop this down, make sure it's on vertex. G to grab this along the x-axis. Control, I'm going to snap it to that so that it's right up against that line tie. I'm not actually going to want to print it there, I'm going to move it off to the left. So G to grab, I'm going to move it on the x-axis. We're going to move it to the left, which is in the positive direction, over this way. I like to print 3 or 4 walls, and I want the walls of the hook hanger to overlap with the walls of the ballast pocket. So I'm going to move this over 1.6 millimeters, which is 4 walls, but we're in inches. So I'm going to show you how to move something in a different unit than what we have selected. So I'm going to hit G to grab, X, and then we're going to hit equals. Equals is the important part here. Equals, you can see up here in the top left corner where it's going to type your stuff. So we've got equals, I want to go 1.6 millimeters, and then hit enter. And I'm going to go G to grab, Z, I'm going to align it with the bottom of the lure, and then I'm going to move it up. Let's say 1 point, no, let's move it up another 1.6. Let's just use that 1.6 millimeters for everything. This guy, GZ equals 1.5 or 6 millimeters. And so I'm trying. So yeah, you see, I wanted to click this one, but it picked the lure. So pay attention to whenever you're doing that. Just click again, and it'll go to the next layer. I'm gonna line it up at the bottom, and then I'm gonna move it up 1.6 millimeters. So in order to create the pocket, I want to start with just this. I want to isolate this. I want to make a shape that surrounds just this sphere. I'm gonna hit the / key, and it will focus just on that, and it'll move all the other distractions out of the way. So zoom out. We're gonna add a cube. It's giant as usual. Bring it down to 0.5. You can make it any number. I just make it something smaller so we can see it. Like earlier, I want to move it, have it centered on this cube. So I've got I'm in this sphere. I have our cube that we just added selected. I'm going to shift, click that guy, and I'm going to apply these all selected so that it's centered on here. So as we remember, this is the side view. I want to look at the front view. So I'm at the nose of the lure. I'm looking down, right, like this. I'm from the x-axis. I'm going to select only the cube. I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees for the same reason as we discussed with the hook hangers and line ties. It's easier to print 45-degree angles than it is to print flat surfaces. Now I want this to be the same. I want this to be 0.34 wide. What you'll see is this point to this point is actually more wider than 0.34. If we just get a rough measurement here. So that's ½ inch. That's not what we want. The reason for that is because we have not applied our rotation. So we rotated it, and Blender is still operating as if we just tilted the whole operation. So Control A, and you want to. These are transforms that you can apply. So we're gonna apply the rotation and scale. Now I can hit 0.34, 0.34, 0.34, and that will give me this. Right? Okay. So I want to G to grab. I want to move it up so that it's just barely holds that sphere in there. This sphere is representing our split shot. I want to give it a little bit more room just for tolerancing. G, Z, I'm going to move it up a 100th of an inch, like that. So we got a little space there. Tab to go into edit mode. I want to select these vertices down here. And I'm going to hit E to extrude them. So we've got this elongated diamond shape. Same thing, I want to get it right there at the edge of the sphere. Not to be perfect, just get it close. In this bottom one, I want to add a bevel to it. So I'm going to hit Control B and move this until it's right there. Now we have the bottom. This is the top shape of our ballast pocket. This is the bottom shape of our ballast pocket. I'm going to select all these bottom vertices and I'm going to move them down negative 100th of an inch just to get that same spacing. Just so if our tolerances are off a little bit, be sure that split shot fits in there. This will also allow it to rattle a little bit. So if it's important to you that you have a silent lure, you may want to make it smaller. But I like a little rattle. I'm going to tab to go back into object mode. We're going to hit that forward slash again to go back to the rest of our stuff. Like that. So we're no longer focusing on just that object. We're going to go to the side view, which is Y. Now what I want to do is we're going to make this ballast pocket go all the way here. So I can put these three, these three split shots in there. And before we do any modifications, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this object, Shift D. I'm going to throw it over here so we have that one to use when we do the back. Click a couple of times so you have your object there. You know what? Let's clean up some mess over here first. So these ballasts are our split shots. This cube 5. We're gonna hit F2 to rename that to ballast pocket front. And this one we're gonna call it ballast pocket rear. And what were these other cubes that we had here? Line, tie, mid. Line, tie, dot, aft. No, silly goose. Forward. Line, tie, forward. I was already thinking ahead to where we were going next. It's good to stop every now and then and straighten up your naming conventions, because when everything is just cube, you get lost on what is what. So, okay, back to where we were. Let's get our front ballast pocket. We're going to tab to go into edit mode. We're going to select these vertices. G to grab. And I'm going to move them along here. I'm going to put them around about where we want. This way. Let's see. I'm just looking to make sure I've got some space here. GX. I'm going to move it to the left 100th of an inch just to give me that space. Now I want to line this up with the bottom of the lure. And then from there, I want to move it equals 1.6 millimeters. That allows us to have some walls down here on the bottom. Now, we want to modify this shape so that it lines up with the curve of the bottom of our lure and the curve of our ballast. We're going to add some loop cuts, Control R. Let's add 5 of them. Hit enter. And then it gives you the ability to do that. We don't want to move it, so hit escape. And just take these G, Z, move them down. It doesn't got to be perfect right now. We're just getting it close. This guy, let's be certain that we have it up 1.6 millimeters. Okay. Move it down enough. Actually, so we know that we are far enough away from our edge. Let's hide this lure body so that we can see. This is what I wanted to see. This is where it's poking out. You know, hit Alt-Z to take away the X-ray mode so you can see where it's poking out. That's the stuff we need to adjust. So, GZ, bring this down like that. So go through and get them all cleaned up. I want to give a little bit of space on the bottom. Just to make sure it's not too tight of a fit. This one in the middle doesn't got to be too close. Just try to make it look a little uniform. This angle is too steep right here. We're going to have to add another loop cut. Control R, just put one. Hit escape to set it there. And then we're going to move it down some like that. Okay. Now, I'm going to turn off X-ray mode, Alt-Z. And let's look around here, make sure there's not, make sure there's not any split shot poking out. And there's not, so we're good. So I like that. You could come in here and move some of these vertexes around and kind of refine this shape. We're not too concerned about that right now. Let's just get us a lure to print. That's for another day, you know? I'm looking at that and wondering if I have enough space in there. All right, let's just go with what we got. So let's find our master.001, which is the lure body that we're working with. So this is the ballast pocket, or this is going to be cut out. It's going to be hollow right here. What I like to do is I like to create a cutout. So I have this little piece that's removable. So I drop my split shot in, and then I have this 3D printed piece that I just glue in place, like a removable panel. If you like to do like the drop in place mid print stuff, you can avoid that, and you don't have to do this part of it. But me personally, I like to start my print and leave. And this way I could print 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lure bodies and then come back and they're all done. And then I've got the little pieces next to it, and I drop the split shot in, I glue that little piece in, a little bit of sanding and finish work, and it's good to go. So I'm going to show you how we do that. So I take this, I'm going to duplicate what I have here, Shift D, when you do that, it's going to want to move it. We don't, it automatically grabs it. Hit escape, just leave it where it was. And I'm going to rename this to cutout. Ballast.cutout. Actually, we're going to make that ballast.cutout front. And tab to go to edit mode. This part's a little complicated. It can, so just bear with me here. We're only going to be worried about the bottom shape. So we can get rid of all these top vertices. Select them. Make sure you don't have anything on the bottom half. Select just the top half. Hit X and then delete vertices. Now we can get rid of this one guy that's sticking up here and this young lady that's sticking up in the back. That one. Delete that. Okay. Now we also do not need these. So I hit Alt to grab that entire loop cut, and then Shift and Alt to grab a second loop cut. Delete those. All we're worried about is this line and this line. We're gonna Alt click and then Shift Alt click. So we have both of these. Right click, go to Loop Tools, Bridge. If you don't have Loop Tools, you need to go back and watch earlier video on important Blender add-ons. So the accuracy of this next part is not important. We're going to extrude along the y-axis. Just go out anywhere. Make sure you're outside of your lure. It could be over here, it could be here. It's irrelevant. We're just making a masking tool to cut out. Extrude along the y. We don't want to extrude this way, so make sure it's level. Now select the same over here. Extrude it z-axis down. Same thing, doesn't matter how far down, as long as you are down past your lure. So we have both of these selected. We're going to bridge them and show you here. So we need to close these faces. By Alt click, it'll select that loop cut, which is that front face. And you don't have to go, and you didn't have to get out of X-ray mode to see this. I just did it so that you could clearly see the faces, what was missing, because sometimes it's hard to determine what faces are missing when you're here. Okay. Now we want to make this just a hair wider. So we're going to extrude this along the x-axis. I like to go 3/100, 0.03, 3/100 of an inch. And then in this direction, we'll see how far it is to hit that, and we'll roughly cut it in half, because we're not going to get a whole 3/100 of an inch. Extrude X. So if I snap it to there, the top left corner, you'll see it's 0.05799. We could hit 3. We'll do 3. 0.03. What I was looking to see if that distance there was 4/100 or 3/100, then we were going to cut that in half, but this will be close enough. Okay, tab out of edit mode, so we're back in object mode now. We're going to duplicate this again, hit escape so that it drops it in place. Okay. So this original ballast cutout dot front, and we have a ballast cutout front dot 001. We're going to throw this one away in a little bit, but for right now, we want to modify this. We're going to make sure that we're on intersect. Okay. And you can take this eyedropper and click on the lure body, or you can hit this little square right here and go down and find master.001. So it's where this big box and the lure body intersect with each other. It's going to give us that. Go ahead and apply it. Control A. And then we want to use the other one that we created to cut out a hole in the lure body, because as it is now, if we move this, oops, what happened there? What happened there? Oh, all right, we've made a mistake. So Control Z, undo a couple of times. Mistakes are okay. As they say, shit happens. We didn't reset our normals. So if we tab into here, what that means is some of these faces think they are outside faces. Some of these faces think they're inside faces. We want to hit A to select all inside of our edit mode. Hit Shift N to recalculate the normals. Now when we tab out, that's right. All right, now it looks like we've got a whole little boat here. So we're gonna now apply that again. We've done it right. So if I hit G and I move that away, you'll see that I've got this piece, but I don't have a cutout here yet. So let's put him back. And let's select our lure body. And we're going to cut out that front .001, this one. And we don't want to do intersect. We want to make sure we remain on difference, which is default. Another mistake. What happened there? Oh. So, the same mistake. I should have recalculated the normals before I duplicated the object. That's an interesting thing to learn. If your normals are not calculated, it will make the Boolean do crazy stuff. I'm gonna do that again. You can see, we'll just have it applied. And when we go fix it, you will see that it will correct itself. So we'll tab in. We've got our 001 selected. We're gonna tab into edit mode. Same thing. We hit A to select all. Shift N to recalculate our normals. Now our lure popped up. I just pointed to the screen like you could see it. We'll tab back into object mode. And so we have that modifier there applied to our lure body, which is a difference of that little box. We can hide this guy. And what you will see if I hide the other cutout, now we actually have a cutout here. This is the volume of the pocket, what you're seeing. So I want to add that. Let's add another modifier. We're going to be adding more modifiers. As you successfully complete one, minimize this. Don't close it, minimize it. I also don't like to apply them, because we can export the model without them being applied. And if we don't apply them, then that gives us the ability to come back later and make some changes if there's something that we don't like. So what we're going to cut out now is that ballast pocket. So I can hide that, and you'll see there's our little split shots. We put them in there. If we go to X-ray mode, you'll see we've got that pocket going all the way up. So we're getting somewhere now. That's the piece that we're going to 3D print separately and glue in place. So we want to do the same song and dance on the back side. Where I like to have, with this lure, I like a nice balanced forward to aft float. So it floats similarly to how you see it here. In order to get that, I put those 3 split shots in the front, and then for the back too, it's going to be a half of, dang it, it's going to be half of one, and we tabbed into edit mode. We're going to select roundabout there, delete those excess vertices on the right, and any other little stragglers that you have there, delete those. Delete vertices. Okay, Okay, so that leaves us with a perfectly fine half shape. We're gonna Alt select, grab that loop cut, F to fill it, and put a face on it. I know you can't see it now. Let's see if we can. Okay, so we've got a half of one now instead of that whole one. Hit that / again to get out of that focused mode. Okay, so I put them one split shot spacing away from the hook hanger. I'm gonna go ahead and hide that body for right now. So, okay, Blender's getting slow. That's because I'm operating it on Dinosaur. I've told you guys that. So I'm gonna save what I have. I'm gonna close it. I'm gonna reopen it. It'll go faster. Otherwise, it's gonna be a lot of sitting around talking while we wait. Bear with me. Okay, we're back in. That happens a lot, and what it is, if that happens to you where Blender just starts getting really slow constantly, even when you're like clicking one thing, moving it, usually it has to do with undo history. And I've gone over that in one of my early videos about setting up Blender. You can change the amount of undo history you have, where you could have up to like 1,000 undos or an unlimited number of undos, maybe. I set mine to like 10 or 15, and it still causes my computer to lag. Like I said, it's a dinosaur, and we're gonna live with what we got. So anyway, I'm gonna take this guy. I want to move him along the x-axis, same as we did before. Oops, I have a bad habit of clicking that right mouse button like randomly, like it's a tick or something. We're gonna click it there. Now I'm gonna move it one whole split shot in the aft direction. That's the way it helps me sit best. So G, X, negative 0.33, which is right there. And we're gonna need to move this one over enough to where they can coexist together. Let's turn our lure body back on. So we can, let's move you out of the way for now. G, Z, same thing. We're gonna line it up with the bottom of that body, and I kind of want to go in that direction. Like I want to be able to constrain it on an axis that is not an axis, and I think that we can. Yep. Nope. Okay. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to rotate this sphere 45 degrees to the left, and that will also rotate the z-axis. Rotate it. So that's negative. I'm looking up in the left corner. I'm seeing that it's negative. So I want to go negative 45. Now, if I hit G, you see that gives me the z-axis, which is like the global z-axis. If I hit Z again, it gives me a local z-axis. So now I can move it this direction, which I'm trying to get perpendicular to, again, I'm pointing at the screen like you can see it, trying to get perpendicular to that surface. This is not, but it's close. So we're gonna move the positive direction equals 1.6 millimeters. And we're gonna wind up doing the same thing with this guy. I want to get it off of there so we have enough room for them to coexist. Not quite, but we'll first move it. Equals 1.6 millimeters. And then same thing, hit X twice and you can move it in that local X axis. I think that'll probably be good enough. Damn it. Okay. So we'll want to move this let's hide the body real quick to make life easier. I want to move it to here. I also want to apply the rotation to give it the same 45 degrees. So we first selected what we want to move. Then we shift selected where we're going to move it to. Go down to this object tab, right click on location, copy all to selected, and then on the rotation, copy all to selected. Okay. You'll see, since the center of the origin is, or the origin is thrown off on this one, that's why it put it in a weird place, but that's fine. We know what to do. Just make that go away. And I don't see it poking out in there anywhere, so we should be good. Let's bring our body back. Oh no, we don't like that. We don't like that at all. Alright. We don't like that at all. We're gonna do this. We're gonna hand hack this. So I've rotated it, try to get these kind of sort of parallel. Which is actually 32 degrees. This one can be 0, this one can be 0. 32.5 degrees is what gets us there. So, let's, no. You know, I wonder, I don't know if this will work on 3 objects. I've only ever done it on 2. Huh, it does. Okay, cool. Now, like that. Now we're cooking with fire. Let's go down here. See, I'm just checking to see how different it is with the different degrees. Shouldn't be much. Yeah, it's probably the same exact place. Okay. Sorry about that song and dance. Let's tab into edit mode on our ballast pocket. Select that face, and we're going to G to grab. We're going to, so again, we're double, bleh. We don't want it to be this way. We don't want it on this axis. We want it on the local X axis. So we're hitting X a couple of times until we get this. Move it that way. Maybe a little bit of space. And that's probably going to be perfect. Okay. Tab out and Shift D to duplicate. We're going to go in and make that little cutout pocket as we had done earlier. And so we're going to rename it to ballast cutout dot aft. We're going to do it the right way this time, which we didn't earlier, so has to do with dealing with the normals and whatnot. Again, let's get rid of all these forward vertices that we don't need, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. If you remember, we also don't need these bottom guys. X. Okay. These are the 2 that we need. I'm gonna hit bridge, and let's see if it does. Perfect. Now, again, we want to extrude these out along the Y. How far doesn't matter, other than make sure that it's outside of the lure body. Extrude both sides in the Z direction, and then bridge them. Again, we want to grab these faces. I'm going to get out of X-ray mode, but you don't need to. Just makes it easier for you to see what we're actually doing. Do an alt click to grab that whole loop cut, and we're going to add a face there. Okay. Oh, biscuits. I said we were going to do this right from the start, and I didn't. So let's undo a couple of things here, and I'll show you what I did wrong. When we extruded this, I don't want to extrude it along the Z-axis. That's the global Z-axis. I want to keep it on the local Z-axis. Now we should be able to pick up where we left off. Oh yeah, that's the ticket right there. Okay, again we want to push this out a little bit on each side, like here. So we're gonna move it along the local x-axis, 300ths. Nope, in the negative direction. And this one, XX, and we're gonna move that one 300ths. Okay, now let's hit A to select all. Let's recalculate our normals just to be safe. And we are going to give us a modifier. We're going to use the intersect. We're going to select our lure body. Again, make sure that you're applying these modifiers to the cutout object that we created. All right. Yes. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and apply that one. Most of them I don't like to apply. But if we did not apply that one, son of a gun. I got to create a second one, I forgot. Yep. Okay. So what I was saying was, if I didn't apply this one, whenever we, it's the intersection of where the cutout piece is right now and the intersection of where the body is right now. So when I take this and I actually cut the body, there won't be any body remaining there for it to cut out or for it to intersect with this. That makes sense. I'll show you here. So we're gonna, our long-term plan is difference with this guy, which is, yep, that one. Make sure I had the right one clicked. Now you'll see when I hide this, I don't have that cut out anymore, even though I wanted it there, right? This is the first one we cut out. It just doesn't exist. All it is a little plane up there because that's all that remains. So we can keep that hidden, but on the body, I need to get rid of that modifier that I just added. Okay, so we're going to go back to here. We want to apply it. Like I said, normally I don't want to apply it, but I just showed you why you need to. And then when you see it looking funky like that, it's because it's overlapping this other mesh that we're about to fix it and cut it out. So we're back at the body now. We can go down and apply that cutout app 001. All right, perfect. Minimize it. And now we need to cut out the pocket. You wise guy. Again, I clicked the button too many times. So we're going to grab ballast, pocket, rear. All right. Man, we are cooking with gasoline now. We're getting somewhere, folks. We are almost there. Okay. So we've got our ballast located by trial and error. You know, I mean, if we were doing this if we had never done this and this was a brand new lure, we would have done things a little differently. And I'll show you that in a later video. I just want to get you guys set up so that you can realize that you can 3D print a lure and go catch fish with it. And then hopefully you feel inspired to go follow along with the next videos where we start from scratch and we make our own. So we're going to rotate this line tie down. I like for anything that can be moved into the bottom half of the body to be in the bottom half of the body. This one is usually the only outlier. I usually will leave this because I like to have that second point of contact there. So I want to rotate these down. And in order to do that, we don't want to do that. We want to keep this in this location. So we're going to go to tool, we're going to go to origin. We're going to move it along. We're going to grab the origin and we're going to keep it on the x-axis. We're going to drop it off right here. Doesn't gotta be perfect, just get it close. And we're going to uncheck that, and we're going to rotate, and you'll see now it's rotating over there. I like to bring it down almost all the way in, like where it's almost hanging out of the body. Bring it up just a little bit, and what that's going to allow it to do is going to allow, when these walls are printed, it's going to tie into these walls. Like we discussed earlier, that gives us multiple points of being having that hook hanger tied in, so it's not just floating out in space when you 3D print it. And on this side, I'm going to hit GG. When you do that, it keeps it along one of the already present axes. It could be that one, which is not what we want to do, but so we're just going to move it back until it's just on this side of that little pocket wall there. So it's going to be tied in here, it's going to be tied in here, it's going to be tied in here. We have a strong hook point. All right, let's leave that guy there. This one is fine where it is. This one, same thing. Click origin, G, X. Move it over here. Dang it. I'm always doing that. Right clicking that button. And deselect origins, R to rotate. Bring it down so that it ties in with the top of that ballast pocket. If you think about it, if we extended our imaginary line tie, out here is where the actual circles, the loop is going to be to tie the line onto. It's going to be actually kind of above a little bit where we want it centered on that black line or pretty close to it. So let's G, Z, bring it down a little bit. Yeah, perfect. Let's rotate it a hair to get it off of that. Yep. And I'm gonna move this a little bit closer. That may be fine there. Move it a little bit closer to that middle hook hanger so be sure that it ties into it. So if I hit GG like we did on the other one, and I can move it here, but I can't go past that. There's a way to override that by holding down Alt. So get it on the axis, that yellow line that you want, and when you have that on the yellow line that you want, hold down Alt. Now you'll see it extends out infinitely, so you could move it wherever you want. I'm just gonna get it a little bit closer. Okay. Oh man, I'm getting excited. Okay, now we want to add these booleans to our body. So I'm gonna go ahead and add all three because we're gonna need all three. So instead of doing one at a time. All right. So first one is going to be line tie forward. And minimize it. Again, I just want to show you, you can go through that list or you can click on it using the eyedropper. We got line tie mid, minimize it because we're going to keep it. Then line tie aft. So I've got a bunch of things going on right here. Make sure it reads what you want to click on. Line tie aft. Okie dokie smoky. I think that's everything. I think that's all of our stuff. Let's give a good look at it. Make sure nothing looks funky. Okay. Now let's go back to the very first modifier we applied, which was the subdivision surface. Let's hide the things that we don't need so that we just have a good look at our lure. And let's go ahead and hide those pockets too. The cutouts, I mean. And I guess we can go ahead and hide this guy. Let's just get our raw lure, let's see what it is that we're going to print. Okay. This is our guy. Nothing looks funky. That kind of looks funky. What's going on there? What's up with that? Why is that torn out right there? Oh, blender froze. I hit tab. Tab back. What could have caused that? So we'll do a little troubleshooting here. I'm using the metal mouse button. It doesn't see it on your, it doesn't highlight it down there on the screencast keys for some reason. But that's how I'm rotating it like that. So, well, let me look at, what I wanted to see was if we pumped up our subdivision surface. Oops. If we pumped up our subdivision surface to another level, it's thinking it's got a lot going on. I'm just trying to get a little more detail. Oh, and actually it fixed that. Well, okay. No troubleshooting needed. We tripped and fell into the solution. That's probably as good as we're gonna need. But now that I think about it, when we get this guy, it's going to be a different level of detail. I don't even know that we're going to be able to tell. Let's just print it at let's leave it at 4. We 3D print it. We're going to paint it. We're going to sand on it a little bit. It'll be fine. Oh, but that brought our problem back, huh? Well, before we get too far into it, let's see if it's even going to be a problem. Because sometimes, as you go down and apply these modifiers, the Boolean modifiers, it'll actually fix that on itself. What we're seeing is an artifact of the formula. It's kind of like giving us a visual reference, blah, 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 blah. I think we'll be okay. We have our lure selected. I'm going to change it from master right now to lure. But I am going to call it 001. What happened? I'm going to call it 001. This is the first iteration. You know, maybe we, when we're fishing with it, we decide that we want to change something. We're going to go to 3D print. And we are going to export it. And I'm going to export it to here. Export. And let's open up Cura real quick. Nope, not Curia. Cura. There you are. I'm using Cura Dark. I like dark themes. Yours may be white. Or you may be using a different slicer. Let's open our file. This guy. It does see that as a problem right there. Biscuits. Let's slice it and see what happens. Oh, while that's doing that, you know who might have also been able to fix this? Let's go to check all over here, our 3D tools. He doesn't tell me that I have anything wrong. I don't got anything that's non-manifold. I wonder. I didn't mean to do that. Recalculate normal just to see what happens. Nope. Okay. So we sliced it. Let's see. When we get down there, is it a problem? Right click, son of a gun. No, I don't think that's a problem. I don't see anywhere how that's going to be a problem. Let's look again to... Man, what's going on back there? My dog's trying to get comfortable in the recliner. So there is a problem there, which I haven't seen this one. I'm not sure what that is. But it doesn't seem to be a problem. Everything here is okay. Okay. Okay, I'm back real quick. This was eating me alive. So I went through to find out what was going on here, and I didn't necessarily figure it out, but I found a fix. So one thing you can do to go through and check, we've got all these modifiers applied to our lure body. This little TV right here is displaying the modifier in the viewport. So you can go by one and turn that off. And when you get to like one of these days, it'll be one that's in our scene. There you go. Okay, so you'll see right here, it's still there. I turned off its visibility for a minute, kind of like I hid the modifier. So I've gone through, and the one I found that actually made it go away was the ballast cutout dot front. The problem is when it goes away, it's getting rid of the whole cutout, right? So sometimes it's in the way that it calculates the math. It could be in the solver options, one of these things, or sometimes just clicking to fast. And when I went to fast, it made it go away. So there's the answer to that. So we've got something to print, and we're gonna cover that in the next video. We've got to an hour, and so what I will show you in the next video is how to set up in Cura so that you get an accurate weight and what weight we're looking for in Cura. So we're going to fine tune our infill, we're going to fine tune our walls for each lure so we get the ideal weight that we're looking for so that we can use the proper ballast. I'll link that video right here in the middle of the screen, so when that pops up, click on it. We'll get into the next one. Thank you guys so much. If you're enjoying what's going on, please hit subscribe. I know that they're long. I'm trying to go slow for those who are inexperienced in Blender, and I promise you the ones in the future will be a little more fast-paced. Again, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.